Hello, and welcome to the second part of the 3D Studio Max tutorial. In this part, we're going to be discussing the UI, what everything means, and some different ways you can customize it. So, first things first, we're going to begin with the major aspects you see here right now. This is how it's going to look when you first open it up, most likely. As you can see up here, set to default, the workspaces. We'll go over exactly what workspaces are in a second. But if it doesn't look like this, just go ahead and click up here, this drop-down menu, and hit default. So let's begin with everything we got here. Let's start with the top. So up here we have multiple drop-down menus, which just give you different options for different things you can do in 3D Studio Max. So creating primitives, different modifiers, animations, renderings, file tools, and editing for different parts of the program, anything you have in your workspace here. A lot of this stuff you can find elsewhere. For example, the create and modify you can find over here on this right side. We'll go over that in a second. And then right below that we have this bar of various tools that you're going to be using a lot more often than some of these other ones. And a lot of these, they require objects to really fiddle around with. So I'll show off a few of those in a second. But things like select object will let your mouse select object. Things like select by name will open up a little panel where you can sort all the objects you have in a scene and select them specifically by their name. A lot of these are really useful. The different selection tools, different settings for selections, and all that jazz. So yeah, we'll go over this more when we go over how we interact with objects in these different workspaces. Right below that are these different sections which show off little things you can do to interact with, in this case, polygon modeling. They won't always there won't always be things here. It really depends on what's going on in the context. Object paint. So like there's stuff here relating with the look of objects and such. We won't worry about that too much. Instead, we'll move on to the over here. So here we have the layers panel. Now if we make objects here, I'll just go ahead and make a box very quickly to show you. You can see it shows up, and you can collapse things. This will also show modifiers and other things within objects. You can freeze things so they won't. You can't mess with them. You can. We can move this over so you can see what each of these are. See whether or not it's frozen, if it's renderable, and it says display as box. You don't have to worry about that too much, but just know that this is basically where you're gonna get a lot of your organization from. We'll start with this first. Over here we have these 4 different workspaces. I don't know why why it's like this, but that's okay. So we have these 4 different areas. This one, is it orthographic? So we have these. This is how it's normally look. My apologies earlier. For some reason, this was set to orthographic instead of what it normally is. These each have different viewpoints. So here we have a top view of the object, a front view of the object, which in this case is this box I made, and then a left view of the object or side view, if you want to just call it like that. And also down here we have a perspective view. So this will show what it looks like. It'll show us what it looks like because we have specific shading equipped. Now, why did this go back like that? Okay. So up here with these 3, you notice that it has this little setting that says wireframe. So from here we can only really see the outline, like the different lines that are, just the outline of the object. If I right click, it won't be highlighted anymore, so it might make it a little bit easier to see. So we just have the basic outline of what's going on here. But down here in the bottom right, the perspective view, we have it's set to default shading, which will show um, basic shadows and coloring and what it looks like filled in, which will change depending on what we have in the environment that we can put in later on. But for now, that's what those are. You can change these views. I did this earlier, in case you noticed, by going to top, by hitting what the view is at the moment, and then changing it to different hotkeys if you want to do that. Also, camera views. If you have cameras, I don't have any at the moment, so you can't really see them. So also, if we want to change how it's being rendered, so standard would just be standard, high quality. If you want to more or less have not a render of it, but just with more computing power behind it to make it be similar to what it would be when it's rendered. We also have we can also change this from wireframe to default shading, which would be here, to facets. You won't really be able to see facets because we don't have any textures on it. To hidden color or hidden line, which will show any hidden things you wouldn't be able to see within default shading. There's a lot of crazy, interesting things like the stylized options, which I don't really use them too often, but if they're there, if you want to have it be a little fancy. But for now, we'll just keep it as a wireframe. Now, if you wanted to focus specifically on just one of these, you can go ahead and hit Alt W with one selected, and that'll make it the only one selected. You can also resize these by clicking and dragging. So completely resizable. If you hit in the very middle, you can resize all of them to your heart's content. There's also down here in the left, I skimmed over a little bit, it's basically different layouts. So if I click here, I can change the layout from, maybe not. Okay, sorry. If I click here, I can change the layout to a lot of different things, which it'll change the amount of boxes, where they're located, how they're oriented, and then from here we can click around to ones we've done before and quickly switch back to ones. This is really useful when you're maybe you want something like this, so you can see every single part of it equally. Move this over here. But maybe if you want to work specifically with this here, you can, or this side, in this case top, you can have that while also having the other ones visible. Yeah, so let's just go and go back to the default view. And let's go ahead and go here and hit Alt W again to pop this open. Now from here, there's a lot. You can move the camera around basically, or what your viewpoint is, by using the middle mouse button. So middle mouse button right now, just middle mouse button pans it around, so you can do all that stuff. If you hold Alt, it rotates. If you hold Control, it pans faster. Same thing with whoops, my apologies. Whoopsies. I don't know how that happened. Okay. Give me 1 second. Okay, I'm back. My apologies for that. I don't know what exactly happened there. Anyway, so yes, Control with middle mouse button will pan a little bit faster. Shift will make it pan just on the left and right. I was gonna say x-axis, but it's not quite right. Well, if you hit right click, you can get all these different options, as well as some things that we'll worry about later. Left click is just to let you select different objects, and we can go ahead and talk about right up here with the selection tools. So normally, if you just hit left click and drag, you'll have a rectangular selection tool, which we can see in a lot of different softwares. If you click over here, click and hold, you can change it to different things. So we can make it a circle, which will generate a circle with the center at where we started. We have, I think this is freeform, which so we can or a polygonal, so we can basically make a polygon and select everything within that, and then whoopsies. Yeah. And then when that when the arrow changes to a plus, that means you basically connected it. We can also make use the lasso, which if you use Photoshop, it's familiar, as well as the spray can, which is interesting. It's hard. There's not many objects here at the moment, so let me just make a few more boxes and then kind of show you what that's all about. So, if I hit spray can, whoopsies, right click there. If you have an a object selected like this, and instead of if you don't want to make an object anymore, you can just hit right click to get rid of that and stop selecting it. So if we do that, this is basically just gonna let you select whatever your mouse hovers over, and this is really useful when you're doing more precise things, and you want to make sure to get very specific objects or planes or things like that. There's also another setting with the selection tool. Let me just go ahead and swap this back to rectangular. So right now we can change it from window and crossing. So if it's in a window, an object will only be selected when it's completely enveloped with the within the box. So as you can see here, this green box is within the selection area, but the orange box is only partially in it. So if we let go, it only selects the green box. And if we swap that back over to crossing, anything that is within and touching the selection area will be selected. And this corresponds to every single one of these. Now, so let's move on to some of the tools to help manipulate objects. Actually, no, I think I'll be going over this in the next video. We're already at 12 minutes, and my computer does not like rendering and uploading these. So, I will see you next time, and we'll talk about what we do with all these objects. Bye-bye.